Welcome to Spitbucket. Today we're on location here at Brokenwood. It's their 40th anniversary, and the inside they are tasting every wine they've ever made. So there's a lot of wine in there. So follow us, we're going in to have a look. Welcome to Spitbucket. Stuart Hordern, winemaker at Brokenwood. Now, how long have you been here?
Just over 12 months actually, Ken.
But you're from the Hunter?
Originally from the Hunter.
Family history?
Grew up on a mixed farm vineyard. Father's a winemaker. So grew up with the vine and the wine, I guess. And a few years at Tyrrell's, a few years at Hewitson down in Adelaide, and now have the fantastic privilege to work at Brokenwood with these amazing wines.
And on amazing wines, we're talking the Reserve Semillon, which is known as the ILR, in honour of Iain Leslie Riggs. Did he actually name it?
I think it was actually bestowed on him by the company.
I'm sure he wouldn't have.
He's very modest man. So
now, as you can see there, lined up behind us, we're actually looking at the 92, which is out of Magnum, which is the very first one. Now, the decision to make a reserve, because originally you were making a wood age plus a normal one, and you went down the grassy sort of style.
Yes.
And that wasn't working for aging. And
no.
Well, you want to tell us about Hunter Semillon to start with?
Well, I guess the thing with Hunter Semillon, Jancis Robinson calls it Australia's unique wine gift to the world, and the great thing about it is that it's a wonderful, fresh, that lovely limey character as a young wine, but it develops with age into this fantastically complex, honey, toasty, I guess almost sort of lanolin character as an aged wine, and yet it sees no oak, and it really displays almost oaked characteristics, and this sort of complexity really adds to the natural fruit acid line, and it's one of the few white wines of the world that truly ages.
Now, as we said, you were making them more in the grassy style.
Yes.
Then you wanted a reserve.
Yes.
What changes?
I guess the Brokenwood Semillon as a current release, which is 09-10, it's this sort of grassy style, a little bit more fruit dominant, a little bit more forward and generous. I guess young Sem can be quite tight, lean and mean before it develops this complexity, and our current release Sem has always been a little bit more generous. We wanted to make I guess we're in the position where we take grapes from a number of different vineyards around the valley, from some pretty special single vineyard sites, and we're in a position to keep some of that back, and it developed we were quite happy with how that sort of developed, I guess, and we're now in a situation where each year we classify the Semillons after about 3 months of age before bottling, and decide which 3 or 4 different parcels to keep as a reserve. They're then bottled, put away for 4 years, and we come back to them after 4 years, classify again, and whichever of those 4 is seen to be the best comes up as the ILR. So,
no, look, thank you for that. This has been terrific. Here at Brokenwood for the 40th anniversary, we'll go and find something else.
Thank you, Ken. Fantastic. Cheers.
Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Iain. Now, yesterday,
yes.
Do you want to take us through what we did yesterday?
Yes, as you can see, scattered around is what we have in the museum, and our first vintage was 1973. So we've pulled out a lot of old wine for tasting today. The tasting we did yesterday was the Reserve Semillon, and that started the day. We started putting away Semillons for long-term aging to be released at 5 years of age in 92, so that was the first one. And we then moved on to a vertical of graveyard Shiraz, which is what we're drinking here and behind us. That is the current reincarnation of the graveyard label. The first one that was off the graveyard is 83, but it wasn't until the 84 that we put graveyard on it.
Yep. And the graveyard's just
down there, yes.
And it's not actually a graveyard, it was intended as such.
Intended as a graveyard, yes. It was all the parish map of 1882, has all the cemetery laid out, and but as far as we know, never used. So that was, what do we have, 26 vintages?
You've made them all except
there's no 92
and no
08.
Okay.
So it has been continuous off the same 4 blocks of vines planted in 1968.
You did some other things, some Cabernets and Chardonnays, but
it's all been trialled and pulled out.
So it's all purely Shiraz from here on in.
Yep, it's 100% Shiraz, and also a source of old vine material, because as you know, the Hunter Valley has hundreds of acres of very old material going back into the 1800s. So we're using that back in the graveyard, just going around and overnight and pinching cuttings off various old vineyards.
That's a Hunter tradition, isn't it?
Yes.
Any personal favourite? I mean, that's like saying which kid do you like?
Which
kid's behaving well at the moment?
The 86 is what we're drinking at the moment, and
it's
out of, and a Magnum as well. So,
well, this is every single time you've done this, the 86 has stood up as something spectacular.
Yes. Yeah, and this is a particularly good bottle.
It really is. It really is.
Good bottle. So that was
recent ones.
Recent ones, 07. Last year, there's no 5, that'd be great. There's no 5, there's no 7 somewhere.
It looks a lot like the 07.
Yes, it does. We had, that's our current release, 07. 3 very dry years, 05, 06, 07. And then, of course, that broke and it rained and rained and rained, so no, 08. But yeah, they haven't changed greatly in style. The oak quality's gotten better. In the 80s, we used a lot of American oak. Now, as you can see around here, all these barrels are imported. We don't use any Australian-made barrels. So quality of oak has certainly gone up a notch.
Do you want to talk about the differences between good Hunter Shiraz and, say, the Barossa or McLaren Vale?
Yeah, it's Hunter with its climate. We don't get black, inky wines. We get very medium-coloured and medium-bodied Shiraz.
They always used to talk about the Burgundy characteristics, which, I mean, obviously different grapes and different regions, but it has got that sort of lovely, almost supple elegance. And the old ones are just phenomenal. Yeah,
because they're not high alcohol. Generally they're 13 and a half, whereas nowadays McLaren Vale, Barossa can be 15, 16.
Yeah.
So we are definitely much lower alcohol and more savoury. So red cherry, briar sort of characters as opposed to Christmas cake characters. So that's the main difference. And I do think that the lower alcohol and the lighter wood, etc., they do age better, I think.
Rigsy, thank you for that.
Absolute pleasure.
We will move on now and look at something else.
Yes.
Well, if that's okay with you. There's plenty to look at.
Pinots, there's Sauvignon Blanc, there's a whole range of...
we may not be looking at Sauvignon Blanc, but...
there's 38 years of wine making here, so enjoy.
And you've been here 28 of them?
28, yes.
Good grief, yeah. Okay. I think I was still at school.
Go away.
And I'm with Peter Forrestal, West Australia's leading wine writer. Forry, welcome to Spitbucket.
Thanks, Ken. Great to be here in the Hunter. Brokenwood, one of the great wineries of Australia, because it's got this fantastic sense of community, a really good team, a training ground for some of the best winemakers in Australia and New Zealand, and producing some fantastic wines.
Including that one, which we're still drinking, is the 86 Graveyard.
Yeah, this is certainly an outstanding wine, and interesting to see the variation between the couple of bottles we had yesterday. And
which were good,
yeah.
Very good, but this is just spectacular. But what else have you found that you've liked?
Well, I've been amazed at the quality of the ILR Semillon. I mean, that is an absolutely fantastic wine, especially viewed over, say, 10 vintages or so. I think it'd be a surprise to a lot of punters, really. A wine that is just seamless, and certainly the sort of wine that would encourage people to try the Hunter's great white wine, Semillon.
Do you see a lot of it in the West?
Well, Semillon does pretty well in the West, in particular as a vibrant young Sauvignon Blanc lookalike, and so it's a popular wine, especially I guess when it's blended with Sauvignon Blanc. But it's much more a wine to be drunk for the moment, rather than a serious wine lover's wine, which Hunter Valley Semillon is.
Forry, you are the author of Quaff, which makes you our leading expert on cheap and nasty wine.
Well, I wouldn't ever say cheap and nasty, but certainly cask wines are a great favourite of mine. Well, you know, for the last 11 years, I've tasted pretty much every cask wine in Australia, and there's some decent cask wines. You know, I think you've got to be fairly.
I should say, Quaff is an annual guide to wines under $15. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you also have a website with which you send out recommendations for the good cheapies.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that Australia produces a lot of really good, cheap, great value for money wines. And one of the problems, I guess, is that there is a lot of wine that sells for less than $15 a bottle, but plenty of it is not great. The best wine under $15, I think, is world class.
Can what should the guys be looking for? What's off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, I think that there are a number of companies that are doing outstanding work. De Bortoli, I think, is one, very reliable. Yalumba is another.
That's the 2 litre casks?
Well, just across the budget price wine range.
Yeah.
I think also Ango.
I was going to say Ango's
doing some
impressed.
Absolutely fantastic things. One of the probably 2 emerging names, West End, which of course has been around for a long time, but they've got a couple of new labels or ranges that are doing particularly well.
Yep.
There's a group called family winery in Hilltops called Moppety.
Oh yes.
Which has a lock and key range under $15. Extraordinary wines.
Okay. Peter Forrestal, author of Quaff, wine writer extraordinaire from the West. Thank you very much from Spitbucket, and thank you, Forry. No doubt we'll see you again.
Looking forward to it, Ken.